The message came at 3:04 p.m. Your Valentine's reservation for 2 has been confirmed at Nori Bistro, 7:00 p.m., window seat. Randy stared at the notification like it was a message from another man using his name. He hadn't made a reservation. Wilma always left it to him every year, except this time. She hadn't said a word, not a reminder, not even a mention of dinner, but she'd made the booking. He didn't reply to the notification. He didn't message Wilma. He just sat there, still in his office chair, watching the seconds blink forward on the screen. By 6:11 p.m., he received another message, this one from Wilma. Hey, something came up, gotta stay late, don't wait for me. No emoji, no explanation, just that. Randy typed and deleted half a dozen replies. Then he placed the phone down, screen side down, and poured himself a glass of water. Cold, still, like the quiet hum of his apartment in the evening. He didn't feel angry, not yet, maybe not at all, just tired. He didn't go to the restaurant. Instead, he sat on the kitchen stool, peeling the skin off a ripe mango. The smell hit him instantly, bright, citrusy, almost intoxicating. He hadn't tasted mango in nearly 7 years. Wilma was allergic, even a trace would bring on hives, sometimes hospital visits. After they'd moved in together, he threw out everything mango-flavored, ice cream, yogurt, candy. Her safety mattered more. He took a slow bite. The flesh was soft, the taste a mix of sun and memory, sweet, sharp, familiar in a way that felt like betrayal, but not his own. At 9:38 p.m., he opened his phone again. There was a new story posted on Jose's WeSpace profile. Randy didn't follow Jose, didn't need to. The algorithm knew. The caption read, "Only a caring sister knows how to spoil someone. Fancy dinner, sweet person, but tonight's dessert wasn't as sweet as her lips." The picture said more than the words ever see. Odd. Jose, grinning ear to ear, leaning into Wilma's side like they were the only two people in the world. His arm rested loosely around her waist. She wasn't pushing him away. She wasn't even looking at the camera. She was looking at him. Around her neck was the delicate silver chain Randy had given her that very morning. The pendant glimmered, his initials engraved on the back, a keepsake, a joke from their college years turned anniversary ritual. She'd worn it out, for someone else. And on the table sat a bottle of red, 2015 Bordeaux. The exact one Randy had ordered for her as a surprise. The ribbon still matched. But what caught his attention wasn't the necklace, or the wine, or even Jose's hand. It was the dessert. A tall slice of Miller crepe cake, golden and dripping with mango puree. Fork marks already carved through it. Wilma, eating mango. Or at least sitting there as it was served. He took another bite of the fruit in his hand. It wasn't bitter, it wasn't dramatic, it was just peaceful. She must have forgotten. Forgotten what it meant that he never ordered mango in all those years. Forgotten the days he'd searched grocery stores for alternatives, the holidays he'd skipped his mother's mango tarts just to keep her safe. Maybe it had never meant much to her in the first place. He licked the juice from his fingers, wiped them on a napkin, and stood. The plate was empty now, just the seed left, pale and dry. "I guess we're not allergic anymore," he said softly to no one. Then he turned off the lights. Randy met Wilma when he was 9, the day her family moved into the house with the white roses. She wore a mint green cardigan 2 sizes too big and carried a box labeled books, Wilma's. Even then, she had this air about her, composed, inward, like the world outside barely scraped the edges of her attention. Randy, in contrast, had skinned knees, loud friends, and a voice that cracked when he laughed. But something about Wilma made him quieter, curious. Their mothers were quick to hope. "Look at them," Randy's mom used to whisper, like a little married couple. They'd walk home from school together for years, Wilma always a step ahead, books pressed to her chest, Randy trailing with his backpack half-zipped, talking too much, too fast. And Wilma never said much, but she never told him to stop either. That was her version of affection. By the time high school ended, it was just assumed they'd be together. There wasn't a grand confession, no sweeping promposal, just the quiet way Wilma slipped her hand into his the night they got their college acceptances. Her thumb traced his knuckle, that was enough. People often asked Randy what she was like. He always said the same thing, "Wilma's not easy to understand, but once you do, you'll never doubt her." It sounded romantic, But he didn't say it because it was, he said it because it had to be true, because if it wasn't, he'd have to admit how many times he'd tried to understand her and failed. Wilma had rules, silent ones. She didn't like messes, or loud restaurants, or last-minute plans. She preferred soft-spoken conversations and black coffee with no sugar. She didn't laugh at jokes that relied on exaggeration, but would sometimes chuckle at Randy's one-liners if they were dry enough. Her bookshelf was alphabetized. Her towels were folded into exact thirds. Her life was a quiet spreadsheet of logic, precision, and compo. Sure. Years later, Randy would joke that if you shook her, spreadsheets would fall out of her ears. She took the MBTI test once, at his insistence. It was during a winter evening in their third year of college. She sat on the couch, legs tucked neatly under her, while Randy lay across the floor with a warm soda. When she showed him the result, she didn't even blink. ISTJ, she said, introverted, sensing, thinking, judging, sounds accurate. Randy had smiled. So basically, you're a commander wrapped in a librarian. Wilma only said, better than being a clown who forgets his deadlines. Still, she remembered his favorite manga character's birthday and set reminders every year to bake him mango-free cupcakes. She was like that, cold at a glance, careful always, but somewhere under the surface, Randy had believed, there was warmth that just didn't know how to show itself. He held on to that belief for too long. After college, Randy was offered a job in New York, a massive creative position at a marketing agency that would have taken him around the world. Wilma had just landed a stable position in corporate strategy, back home. He brought it up during dinner one evening, testing the waters. I might take it, he said. We'll figure it out. Wilma didn't look up from her fork. Long distance isn't sustainable. We'd make it work, he said. She sighed. You know I don't do uncertainty, Randy. You travel all the time, I stay here. That's not marriage, that's two people crossing paths every 6 weeks, that's strangers with matching rings. Randy turned down the job the next day. He didn't fight her on it. He told himself it was love, commitment, that relationships require sacrifice, but he was the only one bleeding. A year later, he accepted a local job in advertising instead. Lower salary, fewer opportunities. But he got to have breakfast with Wilma every morning, even if she barely looked up from her planner while they ate. Patricia joined his department a year into that job. She was sharp, intuitive, quiet in meetings, but devastatingly accurate in every campaign brainstorm. She was the kind of person who said 5 words and meant 10. Randy liked that. Patricia liked Randy too, but not romantically, at least not obviously. Their friendship formed like sediment, slow, solid, unspoken. One evening, after a long campaign pitch, they shared a cab back to their building. Rain tapping against the windows, city lights blurring past. Patricia broke the silence. You're not happy. Randy looked over. What makes you say that? You always talk about Wilma like you're afraid someone's listening, she said. You say she's strong, smart, organized, but never once she makes me laugh, or she surprises me. That's how people talk about bosses, not wives. He didn't answer, just stared out the window, counting the red lights between her sentence and the next breath. Patricia didn't press further. She never brought it up again. To the world, Randy and Wilma were a success story. High school sweethearts, no scandals, no fights aired in public. Their anniversary dinners were perfectly posed for Instagram. Their matching his and hers mugs in the cabinet said Mr. Logic and Mrs. Precision. Guests were always impressed by their home, spotless, quiet, sterile as a hotel lobby. But inside, Randy had stopped picking flowers on the way home. Wilma had stopped asking if he slept well. They lived together like co-authors of a book they no longer read. She hadn't kissed him goodnight in over a year. And he had memorized which nights she stayed, late at work, only to come home with makeup too fresh and perfume too sharp. He never confronted her. He'd decided that if she wanted to be different, she would be, but she never did. Wilma had always been the one people admired from afar, poised, calm, almost untouchable. But Randy, he was the one who learned how to walk quieter, how to eat around her allergies, how to stack the dishwasher just right so she wouldn't need to redo it. Every adjustment was a love letter she never read. There were moments when Randy thought he imagined the distance, like when she bought him a leather-bound planner with his name embossed on the front for his birthday, or when she ironed his shirts before a client pitch without being asked. Those little gestures were the only traces left of the girl who once stayed up all night in college to make sure he didn't sleep through his final presentation. The same girl who once held his hand so tightly during turbulence on a flight that she left faint red marks on his palm. But those moments had become fewer and fainter, like echoes that took longer to return. He remembered one winter evening. The heater had gone out in their building. Their apartment was freezing. Randy came home late, fingers stiff, cheeks red from the wind. Wilma was on the couch, wrapped in 2 blankets, watching a documentary on climate change. He dropped his bag, rubbing his hands together. She didn't look up. Didn't ask how his day was. "I think the landlord's ignoring us again," Randy said. Still no answer. He walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared into it for a moment. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "I miss warm mango cake." Her voice cut through the silence. "That's not funny." He shut the fridge. "I wasn't joking." She finally turned. "You know I can't eat mango." He nodded. "Yeah, I know." And then he left the room. That night, he dreamed of a beach. Bright sun, warm sand, a street vendor handing him mango slices on a stick. He didn't wake up smiling. He woke up missing someone who used to miss him. There was another memory, earlier, sweeter. Wilma once got him out of trouble in high school. He had forgotten his CI.Ents project at home. The teacher was strict, known for giving zeros without blinking. Wilma, who had already handed in her perfectly laminated board, quietly walked up to the desk after class. "I need mine back," she said. "Why?" the teacher asked. "I left something off. I need to fix it." He gave it to her. That night, she stayed up reprinting it with Randy's name, changed the margins, even misspelled a word on purpose to match his style. The next day, she handed it in, as if it had always been his. Randy had never forgotten that. He told her once, years later, "You're not the kind of person who breaks rules for people." She'd looked at him and said, "I don't, but I broke one for you. Don't forget that." He hadn't. That's why, when things started changing, when the silence between them felt heavier than any fight, they didn't talk about it. Randy thought she was just tired. Wilma thought he was just being sensitive. They both believed the weight would lift. Until one day, it didn't. Wilma's family adored Randy. To them, he was the ideal son-in-law. Stable, respectful, present. He always helped clear the table, remembered her mother's birthday, drove her father to physical therapy every Sunday. At every New Year's dinner, someone would raise a glass and toast to the perfect couple. Randy would smile and clink glasses. Wilma would nod politely, barely touching her wine. Patricia once asked, "Do you ever think she fell in love with the version of you that never said no?" He had no answer. When people asked how they kept their relationship strong, Randy always gave the same answer. "We respect each other." But the truth? Randy had spent years respecting boundaries that Wilma no longer offered him. He had become fluent in a language she'd stopped speaking. The night after Valentine's, as he lay in bed alone, the soft buzz of the heater in the background, he scrolled back through his old messages with her. Photos of their first apartment, snapshots of the vacation they never took, screenshots of gift ideas. The emojis had disappeared over time, the pet names fade. It into "hey" and "let me know when you're home." Now, even her lies were efficient. That was Wilma, efficient even in betrayal. He closed the chat thread, deleted it, and for the first time in years, slept facing the wall instead of the empty side of the bed. He didn't miss her warmth, because he realized she hadn't offered it in years. The photo hadn't disappeared, it stayed in Randy's feed long enough for the lighting to burn into his memory. Jose's WeChat post wasn't even cryptic. "Tonight's cake was sweet, but not as sweet as your lips." Below it, the image, 2 wine glasses, still half full, a mango Mila crepe sliced open with delicate silver forks. Wilma's hand visible in the frame, wearing the silver chain Randy had placed around her neck just that morning. Her nails were freshly done, nude polish, minimalistic. The kind she knew Randy liked. But the hand she was resting on wasn't Randy's. Jose's fingers were loosely laced around her wrist, his smile tilted with smug affection, as if he had won something. Or someone. In the background, the window seat at Nori Bistro, the one where Randy had once knelt down in front of her and proposed. The same warm fairy lights trailing down the curtain behind them, the same wine menu. The same dessert recommendation from the same owner, who'd always called them his storybook couple. Randy didn't screenshot the post, he didn't zoom in, he didn't blink, he just stared until the screen dimmed, then placed the phone down. He got up, walked to the fridge, and opened the drawer. Inside, wrapped in paper towels, was the mango he'd picked up 2 days ago, not for Wilma, for himself. A spontaneous purchase he hadn't made in years. Out of habit, he'd almost put it back, but something made him keep it. Now, it felt like the final ritual. He peeled the skin away slowly, juices ran down his fingers. He didn't wipe them, didn't flinch. He bit into the fruit, soft, golden, bright with citrus. He chewed slowly, swallowed, licked the sugar from his wrist. The taste wasn't sweet, it was quiet, fulfilling, like oxygen after holding his breath too long. Wilma came home at 10:17 p.m. She walked in like she always did, quietly, heels off before crossing the wooden floor, settings. Her bag down in its designated corner near the umbrella stand. Randy was sitting on the couch, still in the same spot, still barefoot, the peeled mango seed drying on the napkin beside him. She paused when she saw him awake. "Didn't think you'd still be up," she said lightly. He looked at her. "Neither did I." She held out a bag. "Happy Valentine's Day." Her voice was almost mechanical, like she was reading off a script. Inside the bag was a watch, leather-strapped, limited edition, the same one he'd casually pointed out to her months ago while window shopping. He turned the box in his hands, inspecting the craftsmanship. "Nice," he murmured. "I thought you'd like it," she said, stepping closer. He set it down on the table. "I had dinner," she added. "Grabbed something at work." Her eyes didn't hold his. "Sorry it was last minute." Randy gave her a long look. "I had mango." She blinked. "What?" "I had mango," he said again, slower this time. "The real thing, sliced it myself." She frowned slightly, processing the words. "Why?" "No reason," he said. "Felt like it, been a while." Her eyes dropped to his fingers, still faintly tinted yellow with juice. She didn't say anything. "I'm going to bed," he added, "if there's nothing else." But instead of turning away, Wilma stepped forward. "Randy, it's Valentine's." He raised an eyebrow. "I mean..." Her voice lowered, almost teasing. "Aren't you even going to kiss me?" There was a flicker of something playful in her tone. Something Randy hadn't heard in years. Her hand touched his shoulder, tracing the curve of his collarbone. The perfume she wore was new, richer, more floral than usual, and beneath it was something faint. Smoky. Cigarette smoke. Jose smoked. Randy didn't move. "Not tonight," he said flatly. Wilma leaned closer. "Why not?" He looked at her. "I just ate mango." She froze. Her breath caught. It was subtle, but he saw it, the half-second realization. She couldn't kiss him, not without a rash, not without risking hives down her neck, across her lips, not without proof that she'd forgotten her own boundaries. Her hand fell away. Randy gave her a small, polite smile. "Go wash up, long day, right?" And then he turned and walked toward the bedroom. Behind him, she stood still, holding the bag that had once contained the watch, her expression unreadable. He didn't look back. When the door clicked shut, Randy leaned against it. His heart wasn't racing, his hands weren't shaking. He felt clean, like the truth had rinsed something out of him. He remembered when they'd first visited that restaurant. It was their 4th anniversary, college sweethearts, about to graduate. The owner had just opened the place, and Wilma had been one of the first customers through the door. She loved the simplicity, the quiet elegance, the way the wine was poured from a silver decanter. Randy had booked it in secret, memorized her favorite dish, even practiced a small speech he never got to say because Wilma teared up the moment he knelt down. He'd slipped the ring on her finger and said, "Let's grow old here." She'd laughed and said, "Let's grow organized here." It had been a joke, but he remembered thinking, she really means it. Back then, her laugh was real. Now, even her silences felt rehearsed. He remembered the necklace he'd given her that morning, simple chain, small heart pendant, his initials on one side, a date on the other, the day they'd first held hands in the library during high school finals. She hadn't said much when she opened it, just smiled, kissed his cheek, then left in a rush. Now he wondered if she wore it tonight to honor the past, or to twist the knife. Lying in bed, he unlocked his phone and looked at Jose's post again. It had a new comment, no, from someone tagged as Will Win. A heart emoji. That was her private account, the one only close friends followed. He turned off the screen. He didn't plan to confront her. That would mean giving her the dignity of an explanation. What was there to explain? Mango cake and silver chains didn't lie. The look in her eyes didn't lie. The slow closing of physical space between them over the years didn't lie. The betrayal wasn't tonight. It was in the dozens of moments she'd stopped asking about his day. When she started checking her phone during dinner. When she came home late without apology. When she laughed at Jose's jokes louder than she ever had at Randy's. He had adjusted to everything. Rearranged himself around her allergies, her schedule, her silence. Now, he was finally unmoving. Later that night, she knocked on the bedroom door once, then again, her voice came muffled through the wood. "Randy, can we talk?" He didn't answer. Silence followed, then retreating footsteps, the sound of the shower. Randy stared at the ceiling, the scent of mango still lingering in the air. It was his scent now, not hers. And tonight, for the first time in years, he didn't feel guilty for taking up space. The following morning, Wilma stood in the kitchen pouring coffee. Her eyes were rimmed with sleep, but her hands were steady. Randy walked past her toward the sink, filled a glass of water, and drank it slowly. He didn't speak, neither did she. "Did you sleep well?" she finally asked. "Fine." He didn't ask her the same. She didn't expect him to. She placed his watch on the counter, the one she'd gifted him the night before. It was already ticking. He noticed the time was 3 minutes fast. She always set her clocks ahead, said it made her feel prepared. "I had a long night," she murmured, "couldn't finish the reports." He nodded, indifferent. "Today will be worse," she added. "We've got pre-IPO meetings." Randy set his glass down. "Hope your junior shows up on time." Wilma paused. "What?" He shrugged. "Nothing." He walked away before she could ask again. At work, Randy slid into the day like a man who had already walked out of the world behind him. His campaign presentation was seamless. His team praised his clarity. Patricia sat at the far end of the table, quietly watching him. After the meeting, she caught up with him by the elevators. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "You're a better liar than you used to be," she said. Randy smirked faintly. "I had a good teacher." Patricia hesitated, then said, "You know, I saw her once, Wilma, a few months ago." He raised an eyebrow. "With Jose," she added, "at the art exhibit near the river." Randy looked at her. What were they doing? Laughing, sharing headphones. She had her hand on his back. He said nothing. "I didn't want to be wrong," she admitted. "Didn't want to start something." "You weren't wrong." The elevator opened. They both stepped in. "Are you going to confront her?" Randy pressed the button. "No." Patricia tilted her head. "You're too calm." "I've been calm for a long time." She didn't say anything after two. Hat. But when the elevator reached her floor, she touched his arm and said, "Don't let her erase you." That afternoon, Randy sat across from his supervisor, a sharp, efficient woman named Elaine, who didn't like repeating herself. She flipped through the campaign files, nodded in approval, then said, "You've got options." "I'm taking the Argentina project," Randy said without pause. Elaine looked up. "Seriously?" "I'm ready." She leaned back. "You turned this down 2 years ago because of her." "I'm not turning it down now." Elaine stared at him for a beat too long, then slowly smiled. "Good. Flights start in 10 days. I'll expedite the visa." Later that night, Wilma came home late again. Randy was already in bed, reading an article about vineyard expansions in Mendoza. She stepped into the room, heels in hand. Her eyes darted to him. "Still awake?" He nodded. "I had dinner with investors," she said. "Late meeting." He said nothing. She continued. "Jose handled most of the presentation. I just supervised." Still, no response. She walked over to her side of the bed and sat down, unfastening her necklace. Her fingers fumbled slightly. "You're quiet," she said. "You've been gone." "I told you I had meetings." "I didn't say anything." Her hands trembled as she pulled off her earrings. He noticed her grip her wedding ring. just briefly, a flicker of reflex, guilt made flesh. He asked, "Did Jose like the wine?" Wilma froze. "What? You opened the bottle from the cabinet, the Bordeaux. You brought it to dinner, didn't you?" She turned her face away. "It was for business, Randy. That's a vintage I bought for us, our anniversary next month." "I didn't think, I know." He turned off the light. Wilma lay stiff beside him, eyes open in the dark. She didn't know that he had already spoken to the restaurant owner that afternoon. Ning had called after seeing the WeChat post. "Bro?" Ning had said, voice cautious, "I thought you made the reservation." "I didn't." "Oh," Wilma confirmed it, "but the guy with her, he told me to thank you for the table, said, tell your friend I appreciate the seat and the girl, real smooth." Randy had only said, noted. Now, lying beside Wilma, he thought about that moment. Jose, raising his glass with his smug smile, toasting a table and a woman that didn't belong to him. Or maybe they did. Wilma had started sleeping with her back to him. It wasn't intentional, not a protest, just routine now. But tonight, Randy stayed awake, staring at the line between their bodies, not touching, not speaking, two people breathing the same air like tenants renting space in a life that used to be theirs. He remembered the time he'd been hospitalized for dehydration and stress 3 years ago. Wilma had been in the middle of launching a campaign at her firm and didn't show up until the 3rd day. Even then, she stood at the foot of the bed with her laptop open, saying, "I can't miss this quarter, I'll lose the promotion." He'd nodded. "It's okay." She'd kissed his forehead with lips that hadn't tasted like home in months, and left before he'd fallen asleep. When he was discharged, Patricia had picked him up and sat with him through dinner. She never said, "She should have been here," but the silence around that unspoken sentence was louder than any accusation. Now Wilma was doing it again, drowning in tasks that didn't involve him, staying late, leaving earlier, claiming emergency after emergency. Except this time, she was lying. Jose wasn't a client, he wasn't a partner, he wasn't anything business-related. He was just younger, less predictable, more exciting. Randy noticed every new detail, the change in perfume, the gloss she only wore on weekends now showing up on weekday collars. The receipt she dropped once in the hallway, 2 drinks and 1 dessert with mango. She never used to forget details like that. Tea. That weekend, Randy stood in the kitchen heating leftover rice while she came in wearing sweatpants and a fresh blowout. "You're cooking?" she asked, surprised. He didn't answer. "Want me to make soup?" she offered. "No need." She hovered nearby. "Do you want to do something later? Watch a movie or something?" He looked over his shoulder. "I thought you had work." Her expression cracked slightly, just a tremor. "I moved a few things around. Must be nice," he said softly. That night, while she slept, Randy reopened the campaign folders and began finalizing the handoff notes for the Argentina project. He detailed every file, every login, every contact, flawless, organized, efficient. The kind of work Wilma used to admire in him before she started comparing him to boys who wore skate shoes to work and quoted poetry they didn't write. 3 days later, he told her, just like that. "I've accepted the overseas post," he said over breakfast. Wilma was halfway through slicing her toast. "You what?" "I'll be relocating next month. 10 days in Argentina first. We'll discuss long-term after that." Her knife froze mid-slice. "You didn't ask me?" "No," he said. "I didn't." She blinked. "Why?" "You told me once, long distance isn't sustainable. I figured you'd rather I didn't ask." Wilma sat back, silent. Then, as if catching herself, she straightened her spine and said, "We'll work it out. I'll book time off and come visit. I can shift some priorities." He studied her. "You never shifted priorities for the hospital." "That was different," she said too quickly. "Was it?" Her fingers found her wedding ring again, twisting it, pressing it, then letting go. She stood. "I need to think." Randy nodded. "Do that." Patricia approached him at the office later that week, leaning on the break room counter. "You've changed." Randy poured his coffee. "Good or bad?" "Cold," she replied. "But clean." He sipped. "I'm not angry. I didn't say you were. I said you were done." That night, as he packed a second suitcase, he opened the closet where Wilma's old college photo album sat. He hadn't touched it in years. Flipping it open, he found the picture from their graduation, The group shot under the library trees. Wilma was standing beside him, smiling faintly, but in the background, barely noticeable, stood Jose. And Wilma's eyes weren't on Randy in that photo, they were drifting past him, looking at someone else. He closed the album and placed it in a donation box. When Wilma returned that night, she stepped into the room holding his favorite tea. She looked tired, paler than usual. "I want to talk," she said. "Too late." "I made mistakes," she whispered. "But I didn't mean to." "You meant to be loved," Randy said. "You just didn't care by who." She stood frozen. Then he added, "You'll survive this." Her voice cracked. "Do you even still love me?" He stared at her. Not cruel, not angry, just empty. "You should ask yourself that question," he said, "every time you look at him." And then he walked out of the room. The door didn't slam, it clicked gently shut. The hallway light was off when Randy walked past the study, but the door was ajar, and Wilma's voice filtered through, barely above a whisper, fragile, strung between desperation and delusion. "I can't live without you," she said. A pause. No, I mean it. I tried to forget you, but I can't. Even when I'm with him, I'm thinking about you." Randy didn't breathe. He didn't need to. Jose's voice bled through faintly on speakerphone, low, smug, careful. "Then why haven't you left him yet?" Another pause. Wilma exhaled. I'm trying. You don't know how complicated it is." "Complicated?" Jose scoffed. "You told me this would be the year." "It will be," she replied softly. "I just need to figure out the right time. He's not like other guys. He doesn't blow up or yell. He notices things. He waits. It's hard to know what he's thinking." Randy stepped back from the door, quietly, as always. In the bedroom, he opened the dresser drawer to grab a sweater, and something fell out. An old photograph. The graduation album must have shifted. He bent down and picked it up. It was the group photo from their college farewell. Wilma standing beside him, radiant, the sun catching her hair just right. Randy had always loved that photo. He thought her eyes were fixed on him, but now, looking again, closer, clearer, he realized they weren't. Her gaze extended beyond his shoulder, into the distance, and in that background, leaning casually against a tree, was Jose, staring at her, not smiling, just watching. Randy sank onto the edge of the bed, the photo still in his hand. A slow burning numbness crawled through him. The story he had always told himself, childhood sweethearts, years of loyalty, years of earned intimacy, was built on the assumption that she had never looked away. But maybe she never looked at him at all. He didn't cry, he didn't flinch. He stood up, went to the hallway print, and typed in the keywords, divorce, mutual consent, expedited. The PDF downloaded in less than a minute. He printed it, stapled it. Then he placed the papers in his drawer, neatly, like setting a trap. The next morning, Randy woke up with a sore throat, slight fever. It wasn't much, but his limbs felt heavy. He lay curled on the couch, wrapped in the thin gray blanket they kept for guests. His skin felt clammy. He hadn't eaten since the night before. Wilma walked in, dressed for errands, her hair tucked behind her ears. "You look pale," she said absently, pulling on her coat. "I think I have a fever," he replied, voice hoarse. She nodded. "You should rest. I'll be out for a bit." He looked at her. "Where are you going?" "I promised someone I'd drop off breakfast," she said too quickly. He didn't press. The door closed behind her. She returned 2 hours later, empty-handed, and said nothing. No soup, no medication, no check-in. Randy didn't ask where she went, because Ning, the restaurant owner, had already messaged him. Again. "Man, I just ran into Jose. He said Wilma brought him food this morning, smiling like they're a real couple. You good?" Randy didn't reply. That night, after she showered and went to bed, he opened the drawer and pulled out the divorce packet. Placed it in a brown envelope, left it on the nightstand without a note. She didn't mention it the next morning. Which confirmed what he'd known all along. She'd seen it. And was waiting for his next move. He gave it to her. 3 nights later, over dinner, he said, "Remember that trip we never took?" Wilma paused mid-bite. "Which one?" The islands, he said. Back in college, we kept saying we'd go. Her face softened. Yeah, we always said we would, just never made time. I'm going, he said. Next week. Her eyes widened. Next week? I have a 5-day gap between work transitions. I've already cleared it. She hesitated. I have things going on right now. It's a critical phase at work. He looked at her. Then don't come. She blinked. What? I'm not asking, I'm offering, he said. 1 trip, 5 days, drop everything and go. No laptop, no calls, just us. If you want to rebuild this, this is how it starts. She sat frozen. The room buzzed with quiet tension. I'll book the flights, he added. You just have to show up. Wilma didn't answer immediately. But later that night, she came into the study holding her phone. I moved some meetings around, she said. I can make it work. He smiled. Great. She kissed him lightly, her voice was soft. It means a lot that you're giving us a chance. Randy kissed her back. Of course. He didn't mention that Patricia had called him that morning to say, this is it, isn't it, the final phase? He'd replied, I just need to know. The vacation wasn't a chance. It was a test. She had once told him, long ago, that spontaneous travel made her anxious, that stepping away from structure unnerved her. That's why she liked Randy, predictable, steady, loyal. Now he was giving her the exact opposite. Freedom. One shot to choose him over control, to choose them over Jose, to choose redemption over exposure. He didn't expect her to pass, and that, he realized, was how he knew it was over. The taxi was waiting, engine running, suitcases by the door, the boarding passes printed, crisp, perfectly folded in the side pouch of Randy's carry-on. Wilma hadn't come downstairs yet. He checked the time, 9:32 a.m., their flight was at noon, the airport was 40 minutes away. He sent no reminder, no call, no knock. At 9:51, she came down the stairs holding her phone, her expression unreadable. I just got a message, she said quietly. Jose was in a car accident. Randy didn't move. Oh. They're taking him to General Hospital. He's alone. Silence. I need to see him. Randy nodded. So go. Her mouth parted, unsure if she had his permission or if she'd just lost something she couldn't name. I'm sorry, Randy, she added. I'll make this up to you. He opened the door. You won't. She hesitated a second longer, then walked out, without looking back. Randy didn't follow. At 10:03 a.m., he cancelled one of the tickets. At 10:17, he left the house alone. By 11:05 a.m., he was seated at a corner cafe 2 blocks from the airport. Jose arrived late, as expected. He walked in with a limp, fabricated, no doubt, and a gauze patch taped to his temple. It wasn't even straight. He slid into the chair across from Randy, eyes red but face smirking. Thanks for coming, Jose said, even though you're probably dying to strangle me. Randy stirred his coffee, slow and calm. Not dying. Jose leaned back. Wilma's worried sick. She thinks you're going to do something drastic. Randy looked at him. I am. Jose tensed, eyes narrowing. You think posting screenshots is going to fix anything? She already told me everything. She's choosing me. She chose no one, Randy replied. She just ran from guilt. Jose slammed a hand on the table. Don't act like you're the saint in all this. You ignored her for years. You killed whatever love was left between you two. Randy's expression didn't change. I didn't kill it. I just watched her give it away. Jose scoffed, grabbing his mug. I love her. I've always loved her. You were just in the way. And that was when Randy, in one fluid movement, reached across the table, took his own coffee mug, and poured it slowly over Jose's head. The cafe went dead silent. Jose sputtered, stood, flinched from the burn, though the coffee wasn't scalding. Before he could speak, Randy stood, stepped around the table, and landed a clean punch to his jaw. Jose staggered, hitting the back of a chair. Then a second blow, a fist to the stomach, folded him. He crumpled to the floor, gasping. Randy knelt beside him, voice low, calm. You thought this was love? He whispered. You were just her excuse to cheat. She used you to destroy me. Jose tried to speak, but all that came out was a wheeze. Randy leaned in closer, his lips by Jose's ear. You weren't her passion, you were her permission. Then he stood, straightened his collar, and walked out. Outside, he opened his phone. He posted a single story on all platforms, WeSpace, Link Post, even his old college alumni page. A PowerPoint slide filled the screen. At the top, a high-definition image of Jose and Wilma at the restaurant, lips nearly touching. Below it, Randy's caption in sharp font, "Let's wish this pair of cheaters a lifetime of childless, everlasting happiness." Slide 2, their workplace emails. Slide 3, screenshots of receipts, private chats, timestamps. Final slide, a mock wedding invitation that read, Wilma Jose, united in secrecy, blessed in betrayal, bound in consequence. By the time Randy returned to the airport, 3 people had already forwarded him the post. One included a comment from Wilma's boss. Unbelievable, is this real? It was 12:01 p.m., the flight was boarding. His original ticket, booked for 2, was now just his. He stood at the gate, watching couples file in. Someone behind him whispered his name. He didn't turn around. He didn't have to. Wilma's voice cracked behind him. Randy, please. He faced her slowly. She was windblown, frantic, eyes glistening with tears. I just got the post. You didn't have to do that, she said, stepping forward. I did, he said. It's the only thing you taught me. Please, she begged, let's talk. We can go on the trip. I swear I'll explain everything. I cancelled your seat, he said. She blinked. What? He held out the torn ticket stub. I was never going to the islands with you. She stepped closer. Then why offer it at all? He tilted his head. To see if you'd choose me over him. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. You didn't. She reached for his hand. Wait, Randy, please, But he stepped back, smiled, and walked away. At the check-in counter, he booked a new ticket. One way. Argentina. The plane was full. Randy sat by the window, one hand resting on the armrest, the other holding a paper boarding pass with a single word, circled in red ink by the attendant. Buenos Aires. As the engines hummed to life, the cabin lights dimmed. A couple 2 rows ahead clinked their wine glasses. A child giggled somewhere behind him. The world was moving, noiselessly, without Wilma. He looked out at the runway. In the distance, the terminal glass glowed under the midday sun. A figure was pressed to the other side, Wilma. Her coat clutched around her, face crumpled, phone in hand. But she wasn't calling anymore. The gate agents had already been briefed. She's not on the manifest, they said. Security won't let her through. And they hadn't. She was locked outside of the future she had forfeited. The plane began to taxi. Randy didn't wave, he didn't blink. He just watched her fade behind glass and engine noise and distance. 35,000 feet above ground, he took out his phone one last time. The reception was spotty, but the damage was already done. Wilma's inbox was overflowing, the WeSpace post had gone viral. Mutual friends unfollowed her. Jose's internship contract had been suspended pending investigation. Her firm's HR issued a statement distancing themselves from all parties involved in external personal scandals. Even Patricia had commented. Turns out the quiet ones don't just notice everything, they also remember everything. Randy turned off his phone. In his carry-on, under a travel guide, sat a small envelope. Inside, the same graduation photo. He'd almost thrown it away, but changed his mind at the last second, not out of sentiment, but as proof. Proof that he had once been blind, proof that he would never be again. At the first layover, he bought a small journal. On the first page, he wrote, Lesson 1, when someone says they love you but hides behind others to feel alive, they don't love you, they fear themselves. He landed in Buenos Aires to the sound of violinists playing in the open-air terminal. The sun painted everything gold, the air was dry, warm, hopeful. No perfume, no silence heavy with guilt, no footsteps pacing behind him anymore, just him, alone, unapologetically. That night, he walked into a vineyard as music from a local festival drifted over the hills. He sipped a glass of dark red Malbec, rich and full, Someone nearby laughed, a firework lit the sky. The moment didn't need words, it just was. His phone buzzed once. Wilma, I miss you. Please, just one reply, even if it's to say you'll never come back. He read it, let it sit, then deleted the message, not out of hate, not even out of anger, but because some stories deserve to end without footnotes. He raised his glass. To freedom, he murmured. The stars overhead said nothing. And that was perfect. 3 months passed. The air in Argentina was warmer than Randy remembered from the travel brochures. Dry heat, long shadows, and the scent of fresh earth from the vineyards. He had taken up journaling, not the melodramatic kind, just lists of things he tasted, places he'd seen, little lessons he never had time for before. Mendoza was beautiful, laid back, no horns, no schedules, no guilt. His apartment overlooked a small plaza where locals sold fresh fruit every morning. The mangoes here were different, slightly smaller, more golden than yellow. Every bite reminded him of freedom. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about rediscovery. He stopped flinching when women wore perfume that resembled Wilma's. He no longer felt the urge to check his phone every time it buzzed. The silence wasn't heavy now, it was a friend. One evening, while sitting in an outdoor cafe under strings of paper lanterns, he FaceTimed his mom. "You're glowing," she said, voice full of relief. "Must be the wine," Randy joked, holding up a glass. "I told you that trip would be good for you. You needed distance, not just miles, but silence." He smiled. "You were right." She leaned in. "And you haven't spoken to her?" "Not once." His mom let out a soft exhale. "Good, then don't." In Japan, it was festival season. Randy had flown in after wrapping up a project with a new firm that appreciated his quiet, surgical precision. He walked through the busy Kyoto streets at dusk, cherry blossom petals brushing past his shoulders. Lanterns lit the sky. Children laughed in kimonos. And in the crowd, no eyes searching for his approval. No woman calculating which man gave her more adrenaline. He bit into a mango-filled mochi, smiled. It wasn't a craving anymore, it was a ritual, a reclaiming. Meanwhile, Wilma was collapsing. The We Space post had done more than embarrass, it had exposed. Her company issued a quiet, but firm dismissal. Not for moral reasons, but because clients didn't want to be associated with unprofessional distractions. Jose vanished from every feed. Rumor had it he'd moved cities. Randy never checked in, never asked, but news still trickled in, through mutual friends, through former colleagues, through forwarded screenshots. Someone sent him a blurry photo, Wilma at a coffee shop, hair tied in a sloppy bun, staring blankly out the window. Caption: "She's not doing great, heard her parents stepped in financially." He didn't save the image, he just cleared the chat, and continued walking through Tokyo's Shibuya crossing like a man finally alone with his thoughts. Back home, his parents called more often now, not out of worry, but joy. His mom had started calling him her travel frog, a joke from a mobile game she played, about a frog who sends back postcards from around the world. Randy began sending real ones. Handwritten, postmarked. "Tell Dad the sushi here is better than his birthday rolls," he wrote on one. "Tell Mom the mango pudding in Osaka was soft, sweet, and nothing like the memory of silence," he wrote on another. Then came New Year's Eve. He flew home for it, Beicheng, a promise to his parents. The family was gathered around a bubbling hot pot, laughter rising with the steam, sparklers set aside for midnight. Randy was folding dumplings with his little cousin when a knock sounded at the front door. His aunt called out, "Randy, someone's asking for you." He rose, wiping his hands. He knew before he saw her. Wilma stood there. Hair unbrushed, a pilled beige coat wrapped tight around her, dark circles under her eyes, lips dry and cracked. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in a year. "Randy," she breathed, as if speaking his name hurt. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. I didn't know you were back." "I'm visiting," he said. "Kai, can we talk?" He looked at her. "No, it's New Year's," she said, trying to smile. "Don't you want to start fresh?" He shook his head. "It's New Year's, don't ruin my appetite." She flinched. "I'm not here to make a scene," she said. I miss you. I really miss you. I didn't know what I had until—" "That's not true," he interrupted. "You knew, you just didn't care." Her mouth opened. "Can we please talk?" she tried again. "Even if it's just to hear you say goodbye properly." He met her eyes, calm, clear. "When you realize your future will be as suffocating as your past," he said, "that's when I stopped loving you." She stood frozen, eyes full, but no tears fell. The fireworks cracked in the distance. He turned and walked back inside. Randy shut the door gently behind him. No one asked who it was. His mom handed him a bowl of soup, warm and fragrant, and his younger cousin tugged at his sleeve, pointing at the sparklers arranged on the balcony. Someone turned up the volume on the TV, countdown lights glowing as the hosts shouted, 10, 9, 8. He smiled, just enough, it wasn't forced. Outside, Wilma stood for a while, no more knocking, no drama, just her breath fogging in the cold, waiting for a door that wouldn't open again. Then, slowly, she walked away into the snow, her footsteps quiet, fading. He didn't look back through the peephole, didn't need to. She was gone in the same way she had always been going, one careless moment at a time. That night, after midnight dumplings and firework laughter, Randy stood alone on the balcony watching the sky ripple with bursts of color. His mom came over and hugged him from the side. "You did the right thing," she said. "I know." He didn't feel victorious, just light. It wasn't about proving anything to Wilma anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about space, space to grow again, space to eat mango again, space to not explain his silence. The next morning, his phone vibrated once. A new message from Wilma. "Can we talk?" No punctuation, no emoji, just fragile hope typed in desperation. Randy read it once. He tapped delete. Then, for the first time since the divorce, he opened his camera, flipped it to selfie mode, and snapped a picture. He was smiling. Background, a messy dining table, empty hot pot, bowls everywhere, family arguing over the last piece of beef. He posted it to his stories with a single caption, "Not looking back, only forward." That spring, he returned to Japan for another project, and then to Spain, then Chile, then Morocco. His new firm gave him flexible contracts, letting him move between cities. In Tokyo, he watched paper lanterns float down rivers. In Seville, he danced with strangers under moonlight. In Kyoto, he visited a temple with Patricia during a brief work overlap. They didn't speak about Wilma, they didn't need to. Instead, Patricia raised her glass and said, "To moving forward." He replied, "To not turning back." Later that year, he published a short essay in a travel magazine titled, "The Mango Came Back Sweet." It wasn't about Wilma, not directly, it was about reclaiming taste, memory, identity, and walking away from people who mistake your silence for weakness. In the final paragraph, he wrote, "Freedom doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it comes in small steps, like eating something you once gave up for someone else, or laughing without checking who's watching. I used to think closure required an apology, but now I know, closure is just the door you stop holding open." The article went modestly viral. Messages poured in from readers who'd been cheated on, walked out on, or slowly forgotten in their own homes. Randy replied to a few. Mostly, he just smiled quietly at the words people wrote. He understood them all. It was autumn when he bought a small house overlooking the water in Portugal. Warm breeze, salty air, bookshelves, a kitchen where he cooked mango tarts for himself every Sunday. No noise, no guilt, no missing pieces. Just him, healed, not in spite of the pain, but because of what he chose after it. On his last birthday, he received a single anonymous envelope, no return address. Inside, a photo. The same graduation photo. Except this time, someone had drawn a red circle around Jose's face in the background, and another around Wilma's gaze. Beneath it, in handwriting Randy knew well, were just 3 words, "I see it." He didn't keep it. He tore the photo into clean squares and fed it into the fireplace, one piece at a time. The flames rose, devoured, then vanished. He sipped his wine, looked at the sea, and turned the page on his book.